everybody. This is Cindy Allen, editor-in-chief of Interior Design magazine, and at the Cindygram, you're going to get a private tour inside our favorite designer's own home. Get set, because we're heading all the way out east to the tip of Long Island to Montauk, New York, and we're visiting Hall of Famer and my very, very dear friend, Lauren Rottet, founding principal and president of Rottet Studio. And you're in for a treat. We're going to visit her vintage George Nelson beach house. Oh my God. Hi, Lauren.
Hi, Cindy.
Hi, I wish I was there with you.
I wish you were too.
I know, it's crazy that we're really right now so close, and we normally, everyone out there, we normally would be seeing one another, but we're gonna have to do it by Zoom for now, right?
It's better than nothing for sure.
I know, I know. Now, okay, Lauren, so let's start at the beginning, because we think of you as like Miss Jet Setter all around the world, designing fabulous hotels and big, gorgeous commercial office spaces and workplaces. And I think of you like, because your offices are in Los Angeles, New York, and Shanghai. So Montauk, like, what's the deal?
Yeah, no, it's a really good question because, you know, I had never been to Montauk. I barely knew it existed. And I was visiting a friend in East Hampton, first time I'd been to the Hamptons. And I started looking through real estate magazines, as I love to do.
Right.
And I saw a house designed by George Nelson and Gordon Chadwick. And I thought, what? I didn't even know he ever did a house. I've got to go see this thing. So I called a realtor and she says, oh, Montauk, it's so far away. And I'm like, I'm from Houston. What's 25 more minutes?
Right.
She said, oh, you don't want to be in Montauk. Let's look around East Hampton. So I had to humor her. So we looked around East Hampton. I was nice. I said, well, how about the house in Montauk?
Right.
We came out to see it and it was a bit of a mess, but I'm like, this is way better than even the pictures. I think I'm in love, and I bought it.
Right. I know, it's such an amazing story. By the way, this is my theory, is as a designer, the house that the realtors say no to is the house you're going to want, right?
Only because she's like, it's strange. It has the,
Right.
you enter through the kitchen. Yes. Well, yes, you do. Upstairs.
Yeah. I know. So, I mean, look, it's definitely in the design world a house of envy, right? Because like finding this, it's like a secret treasure, such happenstance that you happen to like be looking, and like you said, you were like, that's it, I'm buying it, right?
Yeah, I was. And then of course the two artists who were living in it decided they didn't want to sell.
Oh my God,
So,
what happened?
yeah,
I didn't know this.
they did. And so, I mean, and I can understand it. They were really kind of on the fence anyway. And so it turned out they were just not having a great time with their realtor. So my realtor said, this is unusual, but I'm going to handle both sides of it. So she was super sweet, made them feel better, and they felt fine about it and eventually sold it to me.
Wow. So how long ago was that now?
Well, let's see, it was 2011. So it's been almost 9 years, which is crazy.
Yeah, kind of much. I mean, it feels like it was almost yesterday, but it's been 9 years.
I've been working on it for 8 years.
I know.
8.5 years.
I know, just everybody. So we just she has been working on it. We just published it in Homes. It's a glorious feature, and we were all really, really so excited about it, honestly. And you know, it's a piece of history. So that's the thing, right, Lauren? So a George Nelson house, you think a house, right? You think, no, a marshmallow sofa. You don't think a house. So you had to do some digging about that, right?
You can actually see one of the original marshmallow sofas that came with the house in the background over there. You know, true. And he did one other house in the Hamptons that he wasn't crazy about. It was a little traditional. Then he did this one originally on the beach. And then those owners sold it. And so the son rebuilt the exact house, got permission from him, used the floor plans and rebuilt the exact same house up here on the hill. So I'm up on the hill. But it's really interesting because when I first looked at the plans, every single room is a hexagon, every single room.
Right.
And so I needed to turn the boiler room. There was literally like an oil tank in the downstairs room and a slop sink for the artist. And I thought, well, view of Lake Montauk, I have to turn it into a bedroom.
Right.
So I thought, well, how on earth do you get a closet, a bathroom, and a bed in a hexagon? But strangely, once you started planning with it, it worked beautifully.
Wow.
And yeah, so, you know.
I remember that room. It's so funny because like you would think that that room wouldn't be as gracious as it is, considering it was a boiler room, but you would never know. It is. And it's got incredible views.
It does.
Right. That was definitely special. Okay, so you're driving up to the house And it is, it's very nice that it's like up on the hill. So you're starting to feel relaxed already. And then you have to, like you said, it's a quirky house. So you kind of drive under a bridge, right?
You do. You drive under a bridge. So, that was a little bit popular in the time in the late 50s, early 60s when this was designed. The kitchen was everything. The bridge is really a ramp that takes your groceries up to the kitchen. So you don't have to, take them down in the car, bring them up the stairs, etc. But you drive under that and towards the garage. So the back of the house really becomes the front of the house.
Right.
So you enter from the back in a big door downstairs and enter into a hexagonal entry room.
Right,
And
wait. But I also like, sorry, just that like when I drive in, because I've been there, everybody. So when you drive in, there's also, so there's the bridge, and it's sort of letting you know that it's kind of an upside down house in a way, right? And also the garage is hinting at these glorious circular skylights that you're going to see later on, right, in the house, because that's like unbelievable.
It is, and I need to, the sun's not coming in now, but a few minutes ago it was just pouring and making gorgeous ellipses on the floor. But I need to do what the artist did and turn that garage into a studio. It was some well-known artists, and they had some of the coolest stuff out there in the garage because the sunlight is beautiful through those lights. But you're right, there's 3 sort of dome skylights in the garage, so that's what you face as you enter. But then of course you turn around, turn around and come back in to face the house. So you open this big doorknob that's a little too high for me, so I have to stand on the stoop.
I remember that. Reach up high.
Exactly, reach up high to get the door open. And then you come in, and I put a big mirror on the right so it reflects the pool on the left. So as you come in, it's a hexagon. The stairs are to the right, and they're wooden handrail. And there's this really random flagstone. And you know me, I'm sort of like everything to kind of be calm. And it's red and gray and green. And the first thing my kids said are, "You're going to change that, right, Mom?" And I said, "I don't think so."
Right.
I'm going to live with it a while. I don't think so. So that goes all the way up the stairs. I actually added it out into the pool area. So it feels like that room goes on out into the pool and the deck. I put the pool in because you have to have a pool.
Totally. And there was just it was like a perfect spot for it too, right? Like now it feels like it was gentle and meant to be there.
Well, and the pool's rectangular. There were so many angles. I had to pick which angle does the pool relate to, right? But then there was kind of a natural one between the slope of the land, the water, what's called the well water, and the location of the septic tank. It was kind of a natural where the pool would go. But oddly, the sun rises on that side and sets on that side. So my inclination was put it on the west side. But I had to stay here a couple of summers. And the truth of the matter is, where it is, it gets sunlight all the way to the sun sets.
That's amazing.
Perfect, yeah.
Right, so for everyone, so you kind of walk into the house and you can see straight through to the pool. And the thing that you said about the flagstone is really interesting, because we do think of you and like your like very strong aesthetic. And with a house like this, and it is quirky, like it probably taught you something too about like letting go and allowing some of these things just to be, and don't like strip it out, right?
No, absolutely. And at first I thought, well, orange kind of cabinets in black and this weird laminate in the kitchen and this odd shape. I did replace the floor because it was bad. It was in bad shape. But
that was in the kitchen, right? But it makes the old cabinets look really good.
They look fantastic. Yeah. And the funny thing was, I like to cook, as does my family. So we thought, well, this kitchen is too small. It's just not going to work. But then we did a Thanksgiving in there, and the way it was designed, we had like 5 people and we were fine. So it's really amazing. So I've really not changed a thing, except I did have to get I have a new appliances, and I kept the old cooktop because it was just so cool looking, but I had to change it because you had to light it with a lighter or a match, and it was
like enough is enough, right?
Enough's enough. So I finally this week got a new one.
That's great. Okay, wait. So you walk in, you see the pool. To the left is a really beautiful room. But it actually hides a Murphy bed. So it's almost like a second living room, right?
It is, and it has a fireplace that stacks with the one above. So it's pretty much the same exact shape stacked on top of the upstairs living room. We call it the Hippie Room.
I like that.
It's kind of a combination of poofs. There's no bean bags in it, but there's these sort of, big poofs. There's some pillows that we got on our first trip to Istanbul. There's 2 vintage Franco Albini chairs. They don't match. There's 2 Arne Jacobson chairs that are wicker. Those do match, but they don't match the other chairs. So there's just this very odd combination of a lot of interesting furniture. There's a vintage McGuire table and stools that came with the original house from the
Oh, I love that.
yeah, late 50s. And yeah,
And
just
there's a gorgeous chandelier. There's a
yeah.
gorgeous vintage chandelier. And you were saying also that you kind of know the places now in Montauk, right, to go shopping.
Yeah, Montauk and Sag Harbor and Bridgehampton. And yeah, I've definitely, everything is either original to the house. It came with a marshmallow sofa, and several of the lights, Paul McComb, credenza, and then everything else is either vintage from here or my prototypes, really.
Right. I know that that's the other thing too. It's like it's a really nice mix of like allowing the past to meet today
Yeah.
with all of your pieces. All right, we're going to go into some of the rooms so you can explain. Oh, also there was the clock, the George Nelson clock, right? That was also original to the house.
Yeah, the one
Yeah.
in the dining room. Yeah.
Yeah, the one in the dining room, which also has a little funny chandelier that came with the house that you decided to keep, right?
Yeah, that chandelier, I don't know what its vintage is. I can't seem to find it, but my daughter loved it and she's into lighting, as you know, so she
Yeah,
would not let me get rid of it, but I've grown to like it. I like it.
yeah, yeah. And then there was, so you walk up the stairs, there's a beautiful Alexander Calder tapestry. I remember when you were getting it on auction. I remember.
Oh, was I online with you? Gotta go now,
Yeah,
gotta go.
totally, totally, which is fantastic. And then, Lauren, did you find out, so there's a gridded screen that flanks the dining room, and
Right.
that also is like kind of, it's fabulous, but it's kind of quirky, right?
It's very quirky, but if you look back at that period, like my aunt's house in Dallas had one of those. So it must have been a 50s, 60s thing to divide your dining room from, the rest of the houses with these open sort of brillage screens. But interestingly, that also acts as the handrail. So the two kind of go together, the handrail down the stairs on the left side. And at this point, some of the parts and pieces move around. I'm going to have to fix those because it's almost like a little toy. You can angle them now.
Oh my God, I love the curve of that handrail. That is really beautiful.
It
Up
is.
the stairs. Yeah, it's really beautiful. Okay, so then there's this other, the path to the living room is fantastic, right? All these built-in cabinets, and it's almost like its own art gallery, which is perfect for you. And then the skylight.
Yeah, I think that gallery, as you call it, the path to the living room, to and from those, that's probably my favorite sort of experience in the house, because when you're walking from the dining room towards the living room, you get one version of the reflection from the skylights, and then you see, in the winter, you see all the way to Connecticut. In the summer, you just see trees. But in any case, you look out into the woods, and it's a whole preserve all the way back there. The man who originally built the house, George Nelson, was very active in preserving Montauk and the land around Montauk, and very much of an early environmentalist and conservationist. So he was extremely influential. So this is all, it's actually a beach house. You're right. It actually backs up to the beach, but many quite a ways to the east before you can get to the beach. But as you're coming into it, all the windows open up, and then the hexagon opens up. And then when you're sitting in the living room looking back, that's actually my favorite shot in the house.
Right, and you're in the living room right now.
Yes, I am in the living room.
Yes.
Behind me is Kiki Smith, and I'm hiding her feet, I think. It's a self-portrait of herself saving herself.
I love it. I love it. It was meant to be in that spot, I have to say. It's like so.
I think so.
Yeah, and then the ceiling, like these ceilings, they're kind of crazy amazing, right? Is that a octagon, or what is that? How
It's
many?
a hexagon, and it's shingled. So the shingles come up vertically on the 6 sides, the points of the hexagons, and then they meet in the middle and make 2 tiers of hexagonal shingles. And so the upper tier is actually a light fixture. There's lights hidden in that. So at night, it just has this little subtle glow around. I mean, who would have thought of that, right?
That's
and
crazy.
Yeah, that's the kind of beauty, us modern people who are rooted in modernism. Everything's orthogonal and minimal and, clean. And here these hexagons meet, and they're made of shingles.
Right, right. I mean, you had to let go of a lot of your preconceived notions. But it's impossible not to fall in love with this house either. So,
exactly.
Right. And then in the dining room also, you have that shingled ceiling, correct?
Exactly. The same one, smaller, but same exact ceiling. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, and so there's also a secret path. Is a secret like doorway into with a spiral? Does it go up to the roof?
I guess I must have showed you that because we
Yeah.
don't. It looks like just a closet door, and then there's a spiral stair, and it has a hatch, and then you can go up to an amazing rooftop. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
It's,
No, we didn't go up there because it was the winter. But
uh,
I love that there was a, for me, always having like these little surprises, and the house is full,
mhm.
is really full of them, right?
Well, you can imagine that was 4th of July evening up on the roof.
Oh my God. And were there a lot of, there weren't fireworks here in the Hamptons. Were there fireworks?
Oh, really? Yeah, we had a little bit.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, good. All right. Wait, so there's more. So there are two skylights in the hallway, and then
Right.
there is an amazing one in the master bedroom. So tell us about that one.
Yeah, you can't be sensitive to light, that's for sure. So I've learned you wake up about whatever it is, 4:50 or whenever the sun comes up, and you throw a pillow over your face so that you can sleep till 6:30 or something. But yeah, it's right over the bed, right over the right-hand side of the bed, and it has a palm tree that's been growing for years. And I have to find someone who wants to adopt my tree because it's too tall.
Yeah, I mean, when I was there, I was like, Lauren, what's going to happen to this
I
palm
know.
tree?
I don't know. I had someone look at it and they said that it won't die, that it will just turn back on itself.
Oh wow. Well, then maybe it'll darken the skylight a little bit, which may be not a bad thing.
Yeah, it's impossible. But unfortunately, I'm not light sensitive, so
No, and you get up early anyway, right?
I do. I do.
Yes. All right. So tell us about some of the color in the house, because in that room there's yellow, right?
Mhm.
Those yellow doors.
Yeah, they're kind of an orange yellow, and they're a little more orange yellow than the kitchen cabinets. So
Uh-huh.
the colors, I think, really must have derived from the natural field stone because they're kind of orange and the rust and the sort of green and then the slate blue, and those seem to be the colors in the house, and the black. So it seems that he sort of derived, and really, I think if you think about it, it's the colors around you. It's the colors of nature out in Montauk. You look both ways and you sort of feel like your house doesn't really divide you from the trees and the ocean and the branches. There's a lot of native cherry trees on the
Mm.
property, which is kind of interesting.
So do you actually pick the cherries
No,
or
they're
no?
non-fruit bearing, but they're cherry trees.
Oh, that's beautiful. Okay, so there's let's see. So how many bedrooms? I know there's another bedroom. There was something with the twin beds are the one that were
Yeah.
downstairs, right?
Where the boiler room was,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah. And so there's that room, and then there's the middle room that has the canopy bed that looks out on the pool, and the hydrangeas have grown. So now the view out that room is a bunch of blue hydrangeas, which is great. Now they told me I couldn't grow them here because the deer would eat them, and I said, well, I'm doing it anyway, and they seem to be great. They ate my boxwoods instead of the hydrangeas. Go figure.
I'm sorry, but I love hydrangeas, so like that's amazing, right?
Yeah, so it's
Right.
good.
So another area that you had to hold back on. So like Lauren was telling me, like originally, yes, she was like, I'm definitely gutting this kitchen, and yes, I'm definitely like gutting the bathrooms. And if you think about Lauren and all your hospitality work, I mean, you're a pro. You could like change those in 2 seconds flat, but you restrained yourself and you kept them.
I did. I haven't even changed the shower heads. The master shower has 2 heads, and I guess it was sort of ahead of its time because it's like a shower experience with the side, jets and the top two jets. And it also has solid surface, which is really odd. In both of the showers, it's held up beautifully well. I thought, well, I'll change this to stone, but no, I have my solid surface. And then the little half bath is literally pink and blue and sort of purple little hexagonal tiles, which I thought I would change those too. But I've grown to love all of it. So it does really, and you know what's interesting? Color is so back in bathrooms and kitchens. I don't know if you've been looking at that. I'm sure
Oh
you
yeah, for sure.
know all of that, but the same colors that are in here, you're seeing, oh, the new colors of the bathrooms. I have that.
You're like,
I have that.
that's so 1960s.
1960s, right?
And were there penny tiles? I feel like there were penny tiles.
Well, they're actually hexagonal,
Oh,
but they
oh,
look
of
like penny
course.
tiles. They're
Yeah,
tiny. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's so in too, right?
well, and then when I added the bathroom, I used all gray ones, but I used the same size little hexagonal tiles, and I used the same shape of the vanity, and I used the plastic laminate like he had in the other ones. Of course, I made it white because it had to be, I had to have some room that was all white, right?
Right. Oh, Lauren. All right. So let's also talk about like that this is a perfect background to your artwork, which is super eclectic and very wide ranging and has such a beautiful spirit around it. So why don't you talk about like some of your favorite pieces? We know the one in the living room. We know Kiki is a favorite, but you have pieces throughout the whole place.
Yeah, I do. So, you know, the first thing you see is, and I like history too. So the first thing you see as you enter the front door is a 1950s vintage Italian bar cabinet.
Right.
And over that bar cabinet hangs a ship diorama.
Right. The diorama. I love that.
Her name is Kate. That's the name of the ship. And you know, it was good luck to do a diorama of your ship. So I love those kinds of things. So that's the first thing you see. And then when you look to the left over the little bar going out to the pool is a really cool painting of Noah's Ark that I got from the Epic garage sale for $9.99.
You go, girl. Hey, it's all in the mix. It's all in the mix.
Yeah, I saw him just the other day and bought that lamp I showed you.
I love it.
And then you go into the Hippie Room, and it's hidden sometimes, but there's a Danny Rolfe rug tapestry over the bed. So when you pull it down, it exposes that. It's super colorful. And he's a very, very well-known British artist. So
and it looks really playful with the flooring, right? It sort of plays off of it a little. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's the bold color version of the muted floor.
Right, exactly.
And so then you start up the stairs and there's a huge Larry Coons. And I bought that at auction when I was buying for someone else, and it was in a very strange lot. I was buying actually Impressionist. And up pops this Larry Coons, and so no one bid on it. I'm like, okay.
I got it. Those are the best finds, right? Those are the best.
An awesome one, a really awesome one. And then you coming up and you see the Calder, the rope tapestry that you were talking about.
So beautiful.
And I have some little, you know, interesting Chicago artists. I was doing the art for the Langham Hotel, and so I fell in love with a few of the galleries and some of the artists. There's a little, some knitted paintings. I guess that's what she calls them, knitted paintings by Sam Jaffe, which are quite cute.
Those are in the hallway, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Those are in the hallway.
And you also have the Raymond Loewy cabinet. You have some alphabets right there.
Yeah, those were letters. Those are vintage from a Sag Harbor shop, and they were letters on a shop. So they just happened to be ROT. So I thought, you know, those were meant.
Okay, that's very cute.
But I love Raymond Loewy, and I love that piece. I wish I had bought more, which was a little more accessible a few years ago. It's getting very hard to get the right ones now, but I love that piece. It's plastic, foamed plastic.
Wow. And then you also had these Maritime Flags. That's also your nod to, I love all the little nods to Montauk. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, and those are signal flags. I have no idea what they mean. So I have no idea. I put 5 of them together. I don't know what I'm signaling. But
oh no. Safety.
Probably something.
Yeah.
I'll have to look them up.
Well, it's the kind of house that kind of allows for all these like eclectic pieces and so much personality.
It does. I mean, really, there's no rules. I think the only rules are to respect the angles. And so I have. And I was thinking about adding a little guest house. And my daughter said, "You're not going to go all rectangular like you always do, are you?"
She's like, "Don't do it, Lauren. Don't do it, Mom.
Don't do it. Don't go all rectangular."
And then let's talk about some of your pieces, because you have quite a few plexiglass pieces that are a really perfect mix in this house.
Well, the truth of the matter is, I designed them for that. So they're for Rottet collection, but they're called Montauk collection. And the reason was I just didn't want to block the views. Like in the dining room, it's not a huge dining room, and there's built-in cabinetry that George Nelson had done on one side, and on the other side was the Paul McComb credenza that it came with. So I didn't want to block either of those. So I created this acrylic with stainless edges, and so it just hovers. And then of course, you know how I love white stone, so it has a white stone top and it hovers over this acrylic base. And I did a glass table that's behind me. You probably can't see it. That's a coffee table that has the same color wood edge as the floor, and then just a big long piece of glass, so that doesn't block anything. And then I did this, I think I call it the bent metal table. I just was out here drawing one day and I thought, well, I wonder what you could make if you just kept like bending a piece of metal. And of course, it has a glass top, so it doesn't block anything either. And then the dining chairs are even acrylic bases, so they don't block the little shells and things that are on the shelf. So it's all kind of floating and all. You're right. I love acrylic. It's an amazing material. People are afraid of it, but if you collect it like I do, the only thing to be afraid of is Windex. As long as you leave the Windex.
And now we're like cleaning everything. So,
Well,
it's, you know, it's like, by the way, I love that.
On it.
What?
You can put vinegar on it, which will take the germs.
That's true. Vinegar's good. Spray bottle. My husband loves vinegar spraying. Yes. By the way, I love that coffee table, the metal coffee table with the glass top. Gorgeous. And then there are the built-ins that came with the house, like the one behind you, which you recovered them, right?
Yeah, I just recovered them. There's 2 sofas in the living room built in and 1 downstairs built in. And it's really interesting. The air conditioning and heating vents are underneath them. So when you sit there in the winter, your feet are toasty warm, and in the summer, they're toasty cool. So it's very clever, really.
Yeah, you were telling me how much you enjoy this house and the spirit of this house. And also you were like in the winter, how much you enjoy the house.
Yeah, I actually love Montauk in the winter. It hasn't snowed the last couple of winters, but the first 3 it did, and that was amazing. I bought snowshoes and went around snowshoeing in Montauk. It was a lot of fun, but it's beautiful in the winter. There's 2 big fireplaces, and they keep the house warm. It's very well built, very well insulated. It's not even cold when I got here in January. I turned the fireplace on, and it's actually, I have to make the wood. They're not gas. And so, Cindy, I've actually learned how to light a fire without a fire starter.
I'm so proud of you.
Yeah, well, I have to have newspaper or something. But I'm not really like putting the 2 pieces of stone together and making a spark.
Well, listen, Lauren, it's such a beautiful house, and it's a beautiful homage to George. I think he would love what you've done to the house, right? Because everything, you've made some really smart moves, like the pool and making a bedroom out of the boiler room, but you've been so gentle, and you can see his hand all over the house. And I'm sure he's happy you didn't change all the cabinets, which there are a lot of cabinets in that house.
It's amazing. It's so cool, though. There's drawings in them and workout equipment, and you don't see any of that.
I know.
I was going to say, also, the stories are wonderful. I talked to Gilda Longinetti.
Yeah.
She had amazing stories about it. And then this wonderful woman, Marie Kennedy, who was the assistant for him at the time he was designing it, came when the AIA had the open house. And she had amazing stories as well about, she said they would spend countless hours behind closed doors working on the house. And young George Richard Johnson would come with the family, and they would spend long hours working on it. So it's interesting. Some people say, that George Nelson didn't necessarily work on the homes, that it was Gordon Chadwick. But she said, which I thought was adorable, she said, well, I have no idea what they were doing behind those closed doors if he wasn't designing it.
Right. That's so special. So what does it mean to you to, carry on his legacy and, to be the owner of this really, really special house?
Well, it is an amazingly inspiring house, I have to say. And so I do design a lot when I'm out here. And then I always push myself to think more about form and angle and volume and the importance of that, and how it, the house is actually, I don't remember how many square feet it is, but everyone thinks it's so much larger than my house in Houston because it feels so big. But it's not, because if you think about it, all the rectangles have their corners cut off, so they're smaller. So in an interesting way, it's about efficiency and it's about flow. And I tease sometimes I have to build a rectangular box to sit in because the energy flows and it flows, and I can't, sometimes I go from one design idea to another, to another, to another.
You can't stop yourself. That is not good for Lauren, who's naturally like that, right?
So I need a little box to go put the design ideas on paper.
Oh. Well, the house is so special. I'm so happy to be able to actually come and be in the house with you sometimes. And I know what it fills you up with energy and good thoughts and good spirit, right?
It does. It does.
Yeah.
As you, Miss Cindy.
Oh, well, thanks. Thanks, Lauren. Well, there we go. This is our first at home. And I think it went very well. I mean, who's not going to want to be knocking on your door. Oh, by the way, Lauren,
You're
I'm like going to be in Montauk in a month from now. Can I like come over?
Find it, you're welcome.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, Lauren, for sharing. I know you're leaving tomorrow and you're heading
Yeah,
back to
sadly.
so I know. So be safe, be healthy. Thanks for this beautiful, beautiful house. And I guess we'll be talking soon, I guess. I don't know.
Sounds good.
I want to
Bye,
hug you, but
Cindy.
I
Bye,
can't. It's so
everyone.
weird to
Hug,
say
hug.
goodbye. I know. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Our first at home with Lauren Rottet out in Montauk. Okay. Bye. Hey design friends, this is Cindy Allen, Editor-in-Chief of Interior Design. Today, you're in for a treat because we are traveling to charming, historic Rhinebeck, nestled in New York's scenic Hudson Valley. And lucky for us, we're getting a private tour of the home and the just finished studio building of my very dear friend and Hall of Famer, Calvin Tsao, one half of the internationally recognized firm at Tsao and McCowan, the other half is Zach. And wait until you see there are treasures, stories, and beauty at every turn, thanks to the curated eye of this very special architect. Hi, Calvin.
Hi, Cindy.
How are you?
I'm really nice and happy to see you, actually.
I'm so happy to see you too.
And
And really to like share this with everybody. This is kind of a long story, right?
Yeah, 1997 is when we bought the property at 85 acres of orchard and forests. And we did it in support of scenic Hudson to ensure that there's no overdevelopment in this area.
Calvin, I kind of remember that the early idea was we have all this land and we're going to build something.
Exactly. But, you know, times are changing so fast. What we learned that we need to put our design efforts into other places rather than, you know, spanking new, never seen before stuff. And we're really now much more interested in preservation and restoration and adaptive reuse. And so the first thing we did here was, in fact, taking a dilapidated gatehouse that had been moved from across the street. It's the only structure on the site, and we fixed it up. And this is now a 800 square foot tiny cottage. And we lived in it for, oh my God, 18 years, I think, before we embarked on adding some studios. And I can't say that we were prescient, but it really lucked out because with the pandemic, we actually now have something to use to work out of, because this tiny cottage, as charming as it is, has no space. Our living space is just 8.5 feet by 9.5 feet.
I want to back everybody up a little bit because Calvin and Zach, or Tsao and McCowan, again, internationally recognized, but they also have a pretty big apartment in New York City, right, Calvin, that is in every design book about New York City. You will see this gorgeous apartment. It's like a sculpture. It's, you know, if you ask any design editor what's their favorite apartment in New York, for sure this one comes up over and over again. So it's kind of interesting, right? That then you picked this, you know, jewel of a house. Look, it was on big property, but this jewel of a house, and you stayed in this jewel of a house.
Yeah, I guess, you know, the thing is, we're not architecture or design virtuosos, you know, we, in a way. I mean, we don't like to flex muscles just because we could. And we'd like to work with what we've got. And this is what we got. We've got 85 acres and this tiny little stone house. The original stone house, which is even smaller, was a gatehouse for the estate across the street. And it it's dated 1875, I think. And then in the 50s, they moved this gatehouse to this current site and then added a kitchen, a 50s kind of addition, and a mudroom. And when we got it, it was practically falling down, and we shored it up, and then we added a screen porch behind it. And that's the only thing we added because we really like to be outside,
Right.
away from mosquitoes and other bugs. And it was the best thing, you know, is to preserve what is there rather than kind of glom on things.
Even though you bought the property because you love the land, this is a beautiful, you know, precious house, right? You did kind of fall in love with the house, right?
Oh, we did. When we came in, that there was no floor, and it had been burnt down a little bit. And so we really had to restore it. We saw the bones of it, and it's just lovely. Very simple, clean. At the cusp of neoclassicism and Victorianism, so it's got a little bit of both of those characters, and very gingerbready.
Yeah, very gingerbread. Is it so tell me the floor plan. Is there 1 or 2 bedrooms upstairs?
There are 2 bedrooms that we made from the attic, and the ceiling height up there at its highest is 6 feet 8 inches.
Wow.
And it goes down to 4 feet. So you really literally crawl up there and go to bed.
Wow. Wow. Okay, so this is what I want you to add it on the porch. Now, do you actually come in to the house through the back or the front of the house?
Okay, so I mean, we really contemporized it because the front of the house is very pretty, but you come through you can't really get to it very easily at this point because the house was moved. So it made no sense to the topography, but the back door to the kitchen door made perfect sense. So we actually made the kitchen door, and which made sense anyway to us because we usually go to the grocery stores or whatever and come home and dump all our groceries right there, you know, rather than trudge it all the way through the house.
Yeah, so you enter the back door and you're immediately welcomed by the beginning of what will be many, many, many precious vignettes, right? So that one, right, that you like, that you just fall in love with. You want to walk. This should be a store.
Yeah, it could be a store. You can come in and shop the house. But anyway, I think the private place is actually the mudroom. It's the room that you come in first.
Right.
And then you go right and you go into the kitchen, you go left, you go into the screen porch. And it's painted my favorite kind of weird green. It's actually a historical color from the turn of the century. Very English. It's
whose paint is that?
It's Farrell and Ball.
Farrell and Ball. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think you're like kind of hit right away also, right, with this very sophisticated sense of these like kind of off colors, right?
Right. But then we kept all the old parts fairly clean. We painted the floor white, with the walls are white, and we're usually not known as a white architect. But in this case, the house is so small and intimate that actually white became a really nice color. And the really strong colors like this bottle green and then this cobalt blue bathroom. So all the little rooms, even little rooms, are very intense colors. And the smaller main rooms are, painted a very, very, very warm white.
And then the exterior is dark. That sort of blends in. It's hard to tell. What is it? Is it a dark charcoal or is it a green gray? What is it?
It's a color we mix up ourselves, and then I had it scanned, and it's actually mimics the tree bark outside. And the idea is to let it just sort of fade into the background.
Okay, I just hope everyone out there just heard that. So they scanned tree bark to help make the color. Is that what you did? Yeah. Okay. This is why I want to share him with you. That's why.
I know, it's crazy. We're running around like this tree bark, no, that tree bark. We gathered all of the tree bark, put it on the floor, took a photograph of it, took it to the paint shop, and they thought we were crazy. Anyway.
Amazing, amazing. And then I understand that the porch, you can use it year round if you use the stove, right?
Yes, yes. Well, not in deep, not in January, February.
Right.
That is too cold. But yeah,
Right.
we did it all the way up to Christmas, and then by March we can use it again. Zach found on the internet, online, is amazing supplier of shakerware, and this is a shaker stove that just really are so well designed visually and functionally. It puts out heat like you can't believe.
Wow. Okay, afterwards, I need the name of that.
Okay.
But also this is very representative of your style, which is a very curated taste. And some pieces are known pieces, and some pieces are anonymous, which makes it even more interesting because that means you went and found it.
Yeah, I think we look for things that appeal to us formally, and also something with a history that is compelling. History that has been forgotten, and we want to keep that history alive. Zach loves industrial, like farm equipment and
Right.
and scientific instruments. The Earth's movement. They're geotechnical instruments from like 100 years ago, but they're so beautiful. They used to design things with such care. Even when they're just functional, there are always these flourishes, forms, and details. Beautifully made. It's never, some plastic stuff that you buy today.
And how would you describe your obsessions?
Okay.
Everything else.
I'm stuck in my past. I have this idea, of childhood that I don't know, don't call me Peter Pan, but and so I think stuffed toys and little figures, they say a lot about the way we think of ourselves as a being, as a culture. There's something mystical about it. And I'm not talking about Barbie, but even
Right.
Barbie, or G.I. Joe. But, I just find things. A lot of them are like vintage sock dolls or things that people made.
A lot of crochet. Yeah, in terms of the toys, there's a lot of crocheting I see.
Yeah, it's really a lot of them are handmade toys, things whittled out of, sticks of wood or sewn or crocheted or knitted. And they still have the hand of someone who made it. And obviously, it's something very dear to that person. And we want to preserve that kind of connection to people. There's a humanity in those objects. So they're not really like stuffed doll, animals or something like that.
Right. No, when you see them all together, it's always like you've created a little installation. It's almost like little art installations all over the house. All right, so let's go into the living room, for instance. Calvin, did you guys like design the sofa, which looks like it's end to end?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
we squeeze a lot of people in to watch like TV or something. We actually had 7 people squeeze into their watching old movies after Thanksgiving every year.
Wow.
Somehow.
And there's also this beautiful lamp. Where did you find that?
Yeah, that's actually metal. It's a
Yeah.
welded, it's kind of cubic one, right?
Yes. Yeah.
The whole thing is metal. Even the lampshade is metal.
Gorgeous.
And it's made by this craft person on Atlantic Avenue. It's close to our office. And I walk down the street and there's this guy welding away. And I go, what is that? And I bought it from him.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. By the way, like for viewers out there, Calvin is sort of like, has sort of my soul. Like we both worked the design trust that has an auction every year, an art auction.
Right.
And the two of us would go after the art like it was no one's business. And you can see some of his finds around this house as well.
Indeed.
Okay, so let's go. So now it looks like every room also has either shelving or a bookshelf or places where you actually can show off all these beautiful objects. So what about the dining room, for instance?
Yeah, I mean, we actually create all these surfaces so I could serve dinner, because there's not enough room for a lot of furniture. So we actually found all these things you can hang on the wall. Some of them we made ourselves, but we got inspiration. Actually, the piece right behind me is a vintage, Scandinavian piece. I actually don't remember the maker. Maybe there's no one, but it's beautifully made, and it hangs on a wall. And so when you don't have legs, I can't think about too many legs in the same space. So that kind of cleans the floor being to the wall.
It looks like there are beautiful drawers to that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, lots of little drawers. So we have all our knives and silverware and napkins and you name it, it's squeezed in there. It turned out to be a ceramic nut, so I have so many plates, dishes, bowls. I'll never use them all. I don't know.
And then I even see that you tucked in on, a beautiful window seat. That's very you as well, right? That's like a signature Calvin move.
Yes, always a window seat. I just love to stare out the window. So no matter where you are, whether you're in the city or out in the country, because you're at this kind of place between the safety of inside and the allure of outside, the mystery of outside. What's happening outside. It's something like internal, external. It's a real transition point.
It's beautiful. Okay, so now we're going to kind of crawl up the stairs.
Yeah,
right?
literally, you do.
Right.
It's very steep. Like the risers are 8 inches.
Oh my goodness. But I see there's a beautiful old tub on feet, right?
There's a place in Albany that's a salvage company that sells stuff. We also bought a wonderful stove from the same place, and they had it restored. And the tub we had to reglaze too because there was rust and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, new, something easy you buy and they ship. No, we had to go to Albany and lug it back in our back of our station wagon.
Yeah, but that's part of it, right, Calvin?
Yeah, it's in the hunt. What can I say?
Totally in the hunt.
It's not the product. It's the process is just important, I think.
Exactly. I always remember how hard it was to schlep home. Okay, so let's talk about the kitchen because you do a lot of cooking in there, and you really could be a chef, Calvin.
You haven't eaten it yet, but you
well,
have
it
to
looks pretty good.
Yeah, it's made out of wax or something. No, I do love to cook, and they're pretty tasty.
Yeah. So did you on the sink side?
Yeah.
The counter and the shelving. Did you design all that?
Yeah, the kitchen we pretty much designed. We did find a dentist cabinet to put all our glasses in as a glass front cabinet. But otherwise, all the other furniture, save the stove and cabinet, are custom designed just so that I can actually have the right amount of counter space and storage space.
Yeah, and I mean, it feels like a piece of furniture too. I love how you pulled it away from the walls just a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's an opportunity to think about kitchen in a very different way than apartment kitchens.
Right, exactly. And then, of course, you have the old chamber stove, which I had one in my old house, and they're amazing, right?
Amazing. The BTUs are incredible, and you can roast a chicken in half the time.
I know, it's crazy, right? All right, so I need to know, so what is the favorite dish that you've posted on Instagram that you've cooked so far to date?
Okay, so Actually, I've never cooked Chinese because the stir frying is just too much work and messes up everything, especially in an apartment. But now that I'm in a house, I can open all the windows. I have a great hood, and my siblings and I are having a kind of a family Zoom every week, and we came up with the idea of recreating some of the dishes from our childhood, some really weird things. And one of them was something an eccentric aunt used to make, which is pork chop, baked pork chop in cream corn. Actually, it's not even Chinese. What am I saying? But anyway, it's not anything. But and it's got mozzarella cheese and I have to say it's either because it's from memory, something that we loved as a child, I love as a child, or maybe it is really tasty. I have no idea, but it really tasted good to me.
Wow. Wow.
And Zach didn't complain.
Okay, so there's a lot of cooking going on, amazing dishes, beautiful. And then you're gonna head outside and go to, are you calling it your office, your studio? What are you calling it?
Yeah, we'll call it this. It was meant as a studio. Now we're working in it as if it was an office. So I guess it's dual purpose. It's good because we actually have very well insulated rooms. So Zach can yell into his Zoom, and I can yell into my Zoom. You know, it's totally fine. And and it's a series of rooms that are connected by little kind of bathrooms. Because
Two bathrooms,
also,
right? Two bathrooms?
yeah, it's doubling up as a guest room, guest quarters as well, because we can't have people over here. So we snuck in a bathroom, but we did it in two portions. One is the commode and the sink, and the other one is the shower and the sink. And because we are limited by the amount of space we can build, because of a promise to Scenic Hudson that will limit our footprint. So there's no corridor between the rooms, and we walk through the rooms via these bathrooms. And also a screen porch in front. So in the summer, you can just open your French doors and then connect to each other that way, or go through the bathroom.
But there's also an outside, out of those two rooms is a beautiful, actually built-in kind of sink area with art over it, right? The tree of life,
Yeah.
It looks like.
Yeah. And also outside we have a patio, if you can believe it, a patio with a built-in bench that looks over the orchard. And we actually still in the process of adding a fire pit. Can you believe it? I can't believe I'm adding a fire pit. It's so, like, I don't know.
The building is beautiful though, and I love that you have this space in between where you like walk, where you're walking under. What is it? It looks like, were there pieces, two different trees you're using as part of the building?
Oh, yeah. So that connects us to a brand new garage. Because, Zach loves his vintage cars, so he doesn't want to park the cars outside. So he has a 1961 Lincoln Continental that just got restored. So we built a garage and a workplace. So we have a little workbench in there so we can do our projects. And then between that and the studio, there's a little breezeway.
Right,
and
breezeway, yes.
Down two tree trunks to support that breezeway. It's a little bit like, primitive hut revisited.
I love that. That's so you too. It's so beautiful. And I love that kind of pathway, and you're sort of meandering in between these different buildings now. It's really special. Tell us about the office space too, which, by the way, it also looks like a gallery for all of your collections.
We're busting out with stuff. So it just finds its way wherever, all over the place. I mean, I have a wooden airplane. Don't ask me why.
I love it.
I think I'm going to hang it, but I don't know. I haven't gotten around to it. Well, I mean, Zach is more conventional. He has a desk, and but he also have a daybed / window seat that he can take naps in. I'm just too hyper to even think about naps. So, and in fact, I have a standing desk because I just can't sit down. So you have a standing desk, it's very big, it's like 4 feet by 7 feet. And so I can really spread out. You know, all our drawings are so big anyway. So, right. And also I have a sewing machine
Wow.
from my grandmother that I found in a storeroom. So I am going to start learning how to sew.
That's amazing. I keep thinking about that. I don't do it, but I keep thinking about that.
Yeah, I'm not going to sew clothes. I just want to make things using the sewing machine.
Right, exactly.
Watch out, some weird shit coming up.
a lot of new toys coming up.
New toys.
So, Calvin, tell us of a couple of your favorite, like a favorite spot in the house and maybe a favorite vignette.
Well, as you just intimated, I love window seats. So the window seat is definitely my corner. And I always curl up and looks out onto the main road and the farm stand that's on our property. So I can see comings and going. So it's not the rear window, it's more like the front window. And that's one of my favorite places. But in the studio, I think I really love the space outside. Also, again, looking out onto the orchard. That bench that we designed that's built into the house. So the house, this little building, it looked like, it's very conventional. I mean, it's a shed, basically a shed bar, but it has a little foot in front, like a pad, almost like a sphinx or something, and you can sit on it. And it has a little low stone wall in front of it, and eventually we want to find a kind of nice table so you can actually have drinks or even have dinner out there. Mm-hmm. So I have great plans for that space.
Do you ever talk about the fact that you had imagined something quite different and how special this turned out to be?
Yeah, I mean, the one good thing about getting older, you are sometimes getting wiser, not always, sometimes. Mm-hmm. And you realize that less is more. And also let life take its course. Inspiration is everywhere. Just don't get fixated on an intellectual idea, I think. Yeah, I mean, you need something but to start something, but it's just a starting point. That's what I've learned over the years, that whatever comes up in the frontal lobe should allow the rear lobe to really come in and do its magic. So it just meaning you have to be sensitive to your elements.
Yeah. And you find beauty in everything, Calvin, and you seem to be able to take something that's often overlooked and create something quite magical from it.
Yeah, I don't know how that works. I mean, beauty, what is it, right? I mean, I sometimes think my idea of beauty evolves. Through discovery, you notice things that you've never noticed before, and it moves you somehow. And I think that's what beauty is. It moves you somehow. It stirs up something inside of you and make you question about all kinds of things, you know. And that's why, you know, sometimes beauty can be morbid or beauty can be ethereal. And I must say that, you know, I've never spent so much time in nature as I have over the last few months, which has been a great blessing, even though there are lots of other tragic things going on. But for me, the one blessing is to have this time for introspection and also be exposed to more nature than I ever imagined I would be exposed to. And nature is an amazing wealth of inspiration.
Yeah, looking at the house, I was going to say, I see nature everywhere, not just outside, but in the objects and the beauty and the simple materials, the collections, the nests. I see nature everywhere in this house.
Yes, nests. That's another thing that we collect. Just on walks. Nests and paper wasp nests, which are pretty amazing.
Yeah, well, beauty in this house, beauty in everything that you do, Calvin and Zach, in your mind, you're just a beautiful person. And we're so lucky that you're sharing this wonderful treasure of a house on this incredible property with us today.
So many compliments. I don't even know how to take it. Just,
Oh, please. Oh, please. I wish I was there so we could be like touching all the
I
things,
know.
you know?
Well, when
Oh,
this is over, you have to come up and visit.
I know. Okay, when this is over. So in a couple of years from now, I'll see you.
Yeah, right. At this rate.
Yeah.
And I don't want you to come over with face masks either.
I know. No, I don't want to. Thank you, Calvin, with all my heart. I thank you. Yeah.
You're the only person I would want to share this with, because
Oh, well, a few more might be seeing it now, but I appreciate
no,
it.
but through your eyes, and
Thank you, Calvin.
I trust
you.
you
Thank you.
so much, and I
Thank
love you so much.
I love you too. Hey everybody, this is Cindy Allen, Editor-in-Chief of Interior Design, and welcome to another episode of At Home. Today, we're with award-winning architect Susie Rodriguez, who recently founded her own practice after spending more than 30 years, 3 decades, as a design partnership at Polshek Partnership, now called ENIAD. Almost parallel to her professional journey is another more personal one, that of buying an off-the-grid island in mid-coast Maine. 25 years ago, yes, you heard me right, she bought an island. Here is this magical story, the evolution of the buildings and their sustainable design strategy. This is going to be a special one. Hey, Susie.
Hi there. How are you?
I'm great.
I wish I was on that island right now, actually.
I know. This is such an amazing story. Okay, I want to share the whole thing and tell us where the island is situated and what you built on it, and then we'll back up and dig into it.
Well, first of all, it's a little island. It's not a big one. So it's not as grand as one might think. But what was really appealing about this was that it was this fairly special, magical place. Fiddlehead Island, we didn't name it, it was named that. But we had grown to love this area, mid-coast Maine and the Penobscot Bay, and going there with my family. So we had this chance to look maybe for a spot for ourselves. And because we'd been, I'd say, introduced to island life in these cabins where my parents would go, we ended up, after looking at lots of places, we found this one opportunity. Nothing seemed good enough if it wasn't a little island and remote and maybe a lot of work and really hard. So we found Fiddlehead and were able to convince the owner to sell it to us. She was a really wonderful woman. This is in 1993. And we did that, figure out how to pay for it, and then come up with a plan.
So what was originally on the island and what did you end up building on the island?
When we arrived on the island, there were 3 structures: outhouse, 8x11 cabin, and a 5x7 bunk house. And with that as inspiration, the first step was creating a new cabin. And that resulted in, instead of one structure, it's 2 interconnected structures with shed roofs that pitch to the center and we collect the water. So and they're all based on an 8-foot module inspired by the original little cabin. We always call it the big mansion of 8x11 that looks out over the view.
Let's talk about this module a little bit, because you had to figure out how to get anything to the island, right? So was that part of, first honoring the past, what was there, but also just practicality?
Yeah, and 8 foot is quite convenient, as
Right.
most architects know. Plywood, everything comes in 4x8. And then the structure, which you can see in all the cabins, is based on that spacing. And so then it was 8 by 16, the width, and then 8 by times 5 is 40. So it's a kind of a math problem, a little geeky maybe, but
Right.
it became something that you could identify the components and all the pieces, get them on the barge, and try to pack the barge because it was really expensive every time the barge came and went.
I bet.
So that was important. The first two structures were the main house, which is where living and dining and kitchen, and up in the loft, a bedroom and a little study. And then attached to it was a guest house. And so that was there for quite a while, I'd say at least 10 years. Then after that, I had a son after we built these, and started to realize he wasn't in the program in the beginning, and realized you got to the point we had to say, like, go to the barn. And so we built one, and it was based on the same structure, same timber frame structure. So we built the barn. And then probably about 5 years later, we built one more structure, which is a workshop. Because as you know, when you're on this little island, lots of things have to be taken care of. And you need a place to put the mower, the equipment, the nails, and something my husband really enjoys. We moved the big mansion, the one that was right out there at front, we moved it inboard into the island.
Well, take us inside the cabin. The cabins are so modern and natural as well. But like, I love the shapes. I love that you were explaining about the water. But tell us what's in each of the cabins, and what's in the original cabin too.
Oh, well, okay, so they're all wood. They're 100% wood with the little steel connections. And so the original cabin, the one thing that was great is it had postcards all over the ceiling.
Oh,
And then this is the two women that own the island. They would come in a boat. So there's a little table, it's a flip top table, there are directors' chairs, and there's shelves in between the 2x4s so you can put stuff. Our first building, it's built a little differently. It's the timber frame, but it looked really clean and simple when we first moved in. And then you can see over the years, it starts to accumulate layers and layers of things. But I think that there's shelves, and there's all the findings from your walks. And the other thing was also the furniture was really fun to slowly find. Like the couch is something I designed, and it can
I love
have
that.
it flip top up, and you can look at the sunset. And then like the dining room table I got on eBay, and then the chairs for some Smith and Hawkins, which doesn't exist anymore. But these, it's again not about fancy, it's about durable. And then you've got like Alto, those round dots, the
Yeah,
table.
love them.
One has a smashed corner because once anything arrives in the island, you're never sending it back. So you have to accept that. And then the newest addition in terms of sort of thinking about living there and comfortable was we had this great trip to Fogo Island, and they have a great workshop there. And so we found the chairs, and so they're all over. They're beautiful.
They're beautiful.
Yeah, they're so comfortable. Anyway, so it just, and then I think when you come in, it's kind of a nice volume, which is great, and a big focal point, window that looks out toward the sunset, and the Narrows, which is this focal point, and all the boat traffic that comes through. And then above is sort of in the eaves is our bedroom on one side. And originally it was just a storage area, and I put a dormer, and then that became a little studio. And then just one other thing is, for many years, until 4 years ago, it was always like a little tight. So we added 8 feet. Oh my gosh, it's like a palace now.
Wow.
And anyway, which is great. It gave us a little more room to eat and cook.
Let's talk about place. I know actually place is also very important in your work, but the history of this area, the community, this waterfront community and the culture. Give us a little history.
Right. Well, it's interesting because I think the history of it makes it a very popular place for architects.
Right.
There are a lot of architects on
Yeah.
Vinyl Haven, and it's known for its grand quarries. In the 19th century, it supplied granite for many public buildings across the United States. And there's a proud history, of that settlement on these remote islands. But it was much more heavily a lot bigger population back in the 19th century. One of the highlights for me is that the quarry right across the way from us, you could just row a boat over on Vinyl Haven, is called Wharf's Quarry. And that's where the columns from the Cathedral of St. John the Divine, from the high altar. And it happened for me, a great coincidence of place, is that was the architect at the cathedral for more than 20 years. And I still connect with it. And so one of the columns is broken that never made it to New York on the shore. So,
wow. So you see that is totally full circle, huh?
yeah, it's amazing. And it's very moving, really.
Yeah. That's beautiful. And so there are also some main artists that you connect with there too.
All of Maine has a real history of artists sort of fleeing to Maine for the summer.
Right.
And, some of the great ones too, like Louise Nevelson, et cetera, who lived in Rockport right on the mainland. So it's a place of powerful nature and beautiful serenity, and a place of reflection, I guess, really for all of us who can escape. I can say we only get there 40 days a year, but it's still wonderful.
Yeah. And I mean, there are so many really talented architects. My mom was brought up in Maine, so I'm connected to Maine as well. But let's talk a little bit about nature, because nature drives everything there. As you said, this is even a seasonal, these are seasonal cabins too. But let's talk about how nature inspired you.
Well, I mean, I think it's a force to be reckoned with, because when you're on a little island, your boat's your car. And so when it's foggy, you can really get lost, and you have to learn to navigate. So, I think the natural world has its powers of, weather, I guess. But the other thing I'd say is it's very quiet, and you can really appreciate that. And the night sky is something else. It's absolutely, I always say it's like chocolate chip cookies. You look up, I mean, there's just so many stars. And seeing the Big Dipper and Polaris, that sort of, you know where you are in the world when you see that. I think we talk a lot about sustainability now, and it's a really amazing reminder of the beauty and power of the natural world, and how we can't forget it, and we need to take care of it.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, because it's so remote, right? You feel it in a much more deep and meaningful way than just saying those words, right?
Yeah, it's very real.
Right.
And when you're there, people always ask, like, during the pandemic now, why aren't you in Maine? And we don't have very good, internet service, so we couldn't really do it. And it's out there. You can call on the phone mostly, but it's a very powerful kind of commanding sensation, I guess, to be there. And
right, because nature tells you what to do in a way there, right?
Yeah, they're the boss.
They're the boss. Yeah. You also told me that once you've slept on an island, you're never quite the same. You said that was from a children's book, but it rings so true for you.
Yeah, it's true. It's kind of corny, but it's true.
No, but
you feel like there's something special about that. You've slept on an island. I feel like anybody who comes and visits feels that. And you feel like I actually got here. It's a little intrepid, when you come across. You can come by ferry and stuff, but we also often come just directly from the mainland, and it can be really rough. So you feel like it's just an adventure to get there. It's really special.
this is 25 years in the making plus, right, moving forward.
Yeah.
So tell us, I kind of want it to be a little bit of a case study for anybody who can buy an island, right?
Yeah.
So take us through from the aerial plan to docking and, you know, the issues that you had to overcome to build.
Sure. Well, if you want to buy an island, you need a benevolent seller who will do
Right.
owner financing. That's
Right.
very
First things
important.
first, right?
Yeah, very, very important. And you have to make sure it's affordable. But you arrive by boat. We have a bunch of little boats. You can't have too big a boat because when you go grocery shopping, you go to town. And if your boat's too big, it doesn't fit on the town dock, or it's pretentious. So just a little boat, one with cover helps. But you come and you arrive. I'd say the downfall of our design strategy is you have to bring everything up a pretty steep hill.
Mhm.
So some people call it Heartbreak Hill, but you have to kind of schlep everything up the path, which is a beautiful path. It feels a little like being in Kyoto or something.
Mhm.
And then the first thing you see is one of the original little cabins, which was a little bunkhouse. And as you come up and around, you'll look up and you'll see the main cabin.
Mm.
And it has a big articulated overhang because the larger the roof, the more water we could collect. And so that was a very important part. But anyway, you arrive and then there's a kind of walkway that you move, and there's the entrances right to the side. And you come in and it smells so good. The inside, the pine, and it's really kind of wonderful. If somebody's staying with you, they go around the corner and they have their own little cabin. They're like, is this where we get to stay? And that
Wow.
one is 12 by 16. And originally didn't have a bathroom, but that became really not great for my parents in the middle of the night. So anyway, so those are the two main structures. And then where it was really living is, but if you move into the center of the island, this is only a 2-second walk. That's where the other structures, and they're perpendicular to each other, sort of mirrored, the barn and the workshop. And then you can keep going down the path to the point, which just looks out toward Hurricane Sound, which is where the island is, looking out to Hurricane Island, where it's known for Outward Bound. But you can see at the end where it's been quarried. It was part of a quarry. There's a great photograph that is from probably 1896, and it's from where the columns were being cut to looking back at Fiddlehead that didn't have a tree on it, and now it's totally, covered with spruce and fir.
Wow. So let's talk about that a little bit, because I know, like, there are these beautiful images looking out and nature all around you, and then also when there's fog. But have there ever been some really, really bad storms that made you worry for the cabins?
Oh yeah, what happens a lot is these when the winds come through, or they're hurricanes, but more recently, more microbursts. They're kind of like little tornadoes. And one year we lost almost 100 trees. And it was really shocking, but luckily it didn't hit the cabin. But we're always pretty worried about that. And so one of the parts of the design that's really important is when we close up. Trying to make close up really simple is great. So it has these big, large shutters that can cover up the glass. And so, could it do damage to the overall structure? It could, but it's pretty robust structure. But to be able to cover the glass with shutters and everything in winter time is very critical.
Do you remember early on some sort of story about building? Because I'm sure there were a lot of them.
First of all, everybody thought we were nuts because, like, really,
Right.
why are you making your life so difficult? So, but I think as I started to talk about getting the supplies to the site, that really was the crucial part. And I think also trying to work with the local contractor who's become such a dear friend, and then bringing contractors from away. They turned out to be quite gracious and fantastic, but marrying, different parts of the area and working together, I think that was really, I learned a lot about the culture of the place and the pride of the people and the work that they do. you know, as it's very much of a place of the working waterfront. It's not a fancy place. It's a simple place with really strong values. So
Did everyone know about, you know, this couple that was, oh my God, they're crazy. They're building on the island.
well, we tried not to make people know, but I think sometimes they know more about you than you know about yourself. But I think we intentionally set the house back so that it's quite, while we have a wonderful sort of focal view out, we also are pretty hidden in the trees. And that was really important to us because it's not a place that you want to be show off or anything like that. It's so inappropriate for life up there because our best friends have become our people who live there.
Yeah.
Up there. And so that was really being part of it. But I know I'm from away, and that's a really important thing to remember too.
You sent over some beautiful images of, we were talking about nature, but also creating with nature. And tell us about some of these really pretty artworks that you've designed.
Well, they're just about found things.
Yeah.
So maybe they're a little natural data or something, but they're when you hike around and you find things. And I think my mom inspired a lot of this. She collected all these, over 35 years, she's collected this basket of sea urchins and cleaned each one. And that was like the best gift. She said, you need this. But all of these things you find on the beach or find on your walk and you assemble them. And so driftwood is kind of the base. And then just the right fit of one piece or a series. Make these little, I don't know, they're just personal. Nobody's really ever seen them except coming to up in my dormer where I have them and I make them.
They're really beautiful. Tell everybody how owning this island and building on this island and this kind of perspective that you have has really helped with your own practice, which, by the way, I know you're doing some cabins right now too.
Yeah, well, I had a long relationship with the Chewonki Foundation, which is a wonderful camp and a little south. And we just starting first summer, this will be the new girls camp. But how this, I would say the simplicity, the importance of nature, being the boss, ruling, and being sensitive to understanding how something can last. And one of the things I like to think about is what we do as architects is we overlay on top of a place. And whether it's like in the middle of the city, which I do so much work in the city, or is it on a natural setting? But no matter what, you have to be aware of what's gone on before and what the weather is, where the sun is. And I think when you're in a place where you don't have a lot of the infrastructure that you might have otherwise, you kind of have to go with it and work with it. And then it becomes part of the way, it's like breathing. You have to go with it. And I think that's influenced a lot of what I do. I'm always thinking about that, even if it's in the middle of the city. Or also, how do you bring nature to an urban environment? I think that's an important relationship that people need to preserve and maintain. So, like, what would we do without Central Park?
Right, that's true. That's
Yeah.
very true. So Susie, what kind of restrictions do you have in terms of what you can build on the island?
Well, one of the, I guess, qualifications for purchasing the property is that it had one of the first easements by the Maine Coast Heritage Trust. And what that means is there was really clear outline by the owners with Maine Coast Heritage Trust as to the limits of what could be built. And so it could have a single family house. It could have a boathouse. It could have a storage building. Well, it was written before regulations changed setbacks. Like I can't have a boathouse anymore. So what the barn is a boathouse. And then we needed the water tower, which we have a New York City water tower at the top where we collect all the water. So, but we worked with Maine Coast Heritage Trust in a way to update, but keep the size and scale of all the construction to within the spirit of what the original easement was written.
So,
So
so you're saying you're kind of done.
we're done.
Yeah.
I mean,
great.
unless we wanted to take this down, yeah, we're done. But there's always things that you can manipulate and try to make work better for you as you think through it. So I think in a way they are these spaces that in some ways are very flexible. One of the things that's really great is that it's sort of like being on a boat. You come to your cabin, but you really don't want to overwhelm it because it is about being outside. So right out in front of the main cabin toward the view, that's kind of until it gets cold in the evenings, but that's where we gather. And it was really great because that was a tradition that worked pretty well last summer with COVID. But you're out, it's sort of your outdoors. And so the placement of the buildings are quite critical because then they create these outdoor rooms for different things. And like when my son was younger, where the barn was placed was such, so it was a big space so everybody could play wiffle ball. And now it's been taken over by the heather and it's gorgeous. But I think it's this dialogue between outside and inside and how they have to exist together, sort of reciprocity between the two. When you make these places that are very personal and special, but places where, given what we do, it's the place that inspires you to do your work. And so then I think you have all the room to push out and do more work.
You got to talk about the sunsets because they are magical.
Well, the sunsets. So we have thousands of pictures of the sunset because every night when there is one, it's like, oh my gosh, this is the most beautiful sunset. And finally, I made these moo cards for my son and my husband that gave them a zillion sunsets because everyone is magnificent. And then you look at your pictures and you're like, oh my gosh, another sunset. But that's really what gets you. And right in the middle of July, it sets and exactly on axis with the narrows. And it's just like keyed into the center of the window in the living space. And that's like perfect.
Right. So you're like, that's the perfect one. No, that's the perfect one. Oh my God, there's way too many, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's really, really great.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, it's such a magical story. It's something that I think most of us maybe once would have a dream about and then never think it could happen. And do you think, I do believe things happen for a reason. Do you think it was because of the history with your family in that cabin that it was a possibility?
Well, I think we knew it was possible because of that experience. And we realized how if you keep things really simple, you can have quite extraordinary places. They don't need to be elaborate. And so, but it's not for everybody.
Right.
It really isn't, because it's a lot of work. And,
Right.
And you also need some help from people to like get a float and a ramp in, the timing, the weather's tough, but it's worth it. But I think it's, we talk with a lot of our neighbors in the area who we've gotten to know over a long time. And I think you have to be a project person because as you said, maybe we stopped building, but it doesn't mean you have to keep caring for it.
Right.
And, the land, when you asked about the storms, when the trees fall down, all of a sudden you have a whole new kind of space and the cabin can look different because it's more open, which is very weird. You know, you never looked at it from that angle. And, you know, you're creating trails, and becomes the destination. So
Right. So it does sort of keep going in a
it
way.
evolves.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, like you think about being alone on an island, but it's clear to me for this to happen, you created your own community, which is really, really special. And I could see, like, just seeing some of the work, like in your practice, like the cabins that are upcoming for those gals, like it's all coming together. Susie, I'm looking forward to so much more. And thank you for honoring nature, humble materials, and also the sense of community that all of your work sort of embedded in your DNA. And it's inspirational, and I can't wait to show off more.
Well, thank you. It's so nice to, I don't know, get to know you through this conversation.
I know. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.